Well, hello everybody. I'm Wendy Smith of RTC North. We're a not-for-profit organisation who have been for the last 30 years supporting businesses to innovate, compete and grow. We specialise in helping commercialisation of new products and services, so it's a really great fit for today. We work with individuals, businesses and public sector support programmes and services such as Innovate UK Edge. So we've had some references to Innovate UK already today, so hopefully we can explore that a little bit more. We have offices in the Northwest, Northeast and Yorkshire. I'm a senior innovation and growth specialist on the Innovate UK Edge support programme and a member of our investment readiness team. So I'm here on my team. We are here to help SMEs get themselves ready to talk to businesses about their investment options and funding options that there are. And today we're going to explore how that can be pieced together better for businesses. And I'm delighted to have been invited to chair this debate today. So funding and landscape in the North, high-tech innovation in the Greater Manchester. And we have Vicky, Jess, Rupert and Dom on the panel. If you can introduce yourselves and give a little bit about your backgrounds, and then we can move on to the questions that I've got lined up for today.
You're left, so I'll start. Hi, I'm Rupert Lewis. I'm the CEO and founder of Oyster Venture Partners, and we're the intermediary between innovator and investor. So we've been in what we would call the battleground, as Dave said, to helping early stage life science companies raise capital across the 4Ds, so drugs, device, diagnostic, and digital. Yeah, we very much get the pain that it is to raise capital, and we're in the fight with you.
Hi everybody, I'm Jess Jackson, one of the investment managers at Praetura. So I won't dwell on Praetura too much because Dave's covered it really well for me. But what I will talk about is the Life Sciences Fund that we manage. So we launched in May this year, the Greater Manchester and Cheshire and Warrington Life Sciences Fund 2, the second iteration of that fund, which is a public-private what's it called? JV, that's the word I was looking for, between the LEPs of Cheshire, Warrington, Greater Manchester Combined Authority and Bruntwood HealthTech. We have a remit to invest between 100k to 2 million ticket sizes from the £20 million fund in early stage life sciences businesses. And we've done 2 deals so far with about 5 or 6 that we're hoping to complete in the next 6 to 8 weeks or so. So it's certainly a very busy festive period for us. And yeah, I'm sure we'll dive into kind of some of the areas that covers. But I think, you know, a lot of what's been talked about in the earlier pitches and panels today is all really, really relevant sectors for that fund.
I won't take up anyone's time too much because I've been speaking enough this morning, but so just to repeat, I'm Vicky, corporate partner at Mills and Reeve. So I advise businesses and founders and innovators in connection with investments, debt and equity investments, mergers and acquisitions, and general corporate governance matters, obviously working alongside my commercial health specialist colleagues, David and Charlotte.
Hi everyone, I'm Dom, I'm the CEO of Xploro, so I guess I represent startups on this panel. So Xploro, just very briefly, is a patient engagement platform that uses 3D augmented reality models, an artificially intelligent avatar guide, and a series of games to reduce anxiety for young patients. And our funding journey started with grant funding, non-diluting grant funding. We raised around about £1 million in grant funding. Then our first round with Jess back during the pandemic in 2020. And then we struggled to raise investment in the UK. So we've gone through what's called a Delaware flip. We flipped our corporate structure to a US topco, and we've just closed our first US funding round literally this week.
Yeah.
So it was really lovely to hear from Dave prior to this, because I think he gave us a lot of themes from the investor's point of view. And we had a big debate last week about what we should cover on this. And I have got some questions here, and I've been debating all this morning about which order we should come to them first, to be honest. But I think hearing the story from Dave's point of view on investment from VCs A really great place to start about what should entrepreneurs expect if this is the world that they want to go into, if this is their journey that they feel that they need to do to make a success of their business, is looking for VC funding. What should entrepreneurs do and expect when they meet a VC for the first time? What prep? How should they maximize their chances in that pitch? So I think we'll go to Dom first, because obviously he's recently had this experience and been successful.
So so I think the most important thing is to build resilience, because you have to learn to deal with rejection over and over and over again. I don't know how many times I've pitched Xploro, but it will be in the hundreds. And you can't, when you get a rejection, you cannot dwell on it. You have to learn from it if possible, and move on and go to the next pitch. And I think the worst thing you can do is take that as a personal knockback. There are lots and lots of very good reasons why people don't invest. Find out what they are, learn from them, and try and improve your pitch for the next time.
Yeah, I have to say, we work with lots of businesses through getting themselves investment ready, and the conversations we have with people who've done that first, fourth, fifth, 10th pitch, and they're really losing their get up and go, and they have to take a step back. We talk to them, they've got a great pitch there, they just haven't spoken to the right party yet, and to carry on with the journey. Jess, do you have anything to add on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, just completely echo what Dom has said. I think the two things that I gravitated towards when you asked this question was what prep you can do as an entrepreneur before you get to that kind of pitching scenario with VCs. Dave probably touched on the fact that the Northwest landscape is quite small, it's quite insular, everyone or nearly everyone knows each other. So if you rock up into a room and deliver a pitch, and I don't know, I've seen founders do this a lot. They will sort of say, oh yeah, we've got a term sheet from such and such, or such and such is really interested. We will call them up and test out whether that's true or not. So and we offer and cover a few fibs in the process of that. But I think the point I wanted to make was a lot of the time founders will go out and have conversation with VCs before they're actually ready to do that, in terms of really nailing down what their proposition is. The reason I invested in Xploro in my last role at GC was Dom did exactly what Dave was talking about, in having a really clear story, a really strong narrative to business. So instantly I got it, I understood what it was trying to do, and I could really get on board with that journey from there. Make sure you find different forums to practice, not just to other founders, but there's a lot of kind of pitch practices as part of accelerators and stuff. So go ask for feedback and be prepared for that feedback, I guess. The other thing, which I guess relates to kind of the more academic businesses, we see a lot of academic spin outs in the fund that I'm working on. And I cannot overstate the make sure that, your business is understandable to people, even if we're a bioscience specific fund, even if we've got, operating partners who've got bioscience backgrounds, they're not going to be an expert in everything. So it has to be clearly understood. And that's a mistake that a lot of academic spin-outs continually make. Just it can't be understood. So really focus on that.
Yeah, I think telling the story, and that was great that Dave had that in there in his presentation as well. It's about being able to deliver the story into somebody who is essentially not in your area of technology. What they understand is the commercialization piece and how you're potentially going to make money, and they're listening to you, and they want to hear you, get comfortable that you're an expert. Rupert, what I know that your background is very much in helping this sector. Yeah. What would be your thoughts on? Well,
I think the VC is not the end game, the journey, and I think is you're investing in great people and with great missions or passions, or you can correct me in a minute, but if you're passionate about your business, you're on a journey, and if you believe in it and you're resilient, you'll find all sorts of ways to make that succeed. So the VC is one, but of course there's grants, there's heaven forbid, there's revenue, actual sales, there's partnerships, there's so many other ways of doing it. And I think sometimes we think, how do we attract the VC? But actually, if you've got the right passion, the right mission, the right story, they will come to you rather than the other way around. And I think that comes to another point that I think a lot of companies miss out is don't it's not too early to tell your story. Because if you go to a VC and they've never heard of you, you've got to educate, you've got to build that relationship. But if you've been out there in the market and they've seen you grow, when there's a number of companies on LinkedIn, you see they promote, we're doing this, bang, they've been invested in. So I think it's not the VCs are great because got cash, absolutely fantastic. However, the passion should be about what you're trying to do, and I think that will be more attractive for the funding as opposed to what do I need to do for a VC.
I think that if I can just add to that as well, I think certainly for anyone who's looking at the United States as an investment market, what you'll find is that many healthcare systems have their own venture arms. And actually that's how our round started, was a hospital system leading that investment interest. So it's not always about going out to the traditional VC community.
I think that also all leads into some of the other questions that I was talking about. We've already heard earlier on today about the funding that's the joint collab with Innovate UK. And when we had the debates at the beginning, as I mentioned last week, often as small businesses come and they expect that the start of their journey is to get an investor, go to an angel investor or try and get VC funding. But as Rupert's already mentioned, there is other funding out there. How do you see that fitting into the journey that businesses go on? So that we've got such things as the grants, the Innovate UK loans, the tax benefits that there are out there for R&D tax credits. How do you see that? Does that improve your journey for getting VC funding later on?
So I think it's not a sequential thing. You don't do grant funding first and then VC funding. We're still raising grant funding. We found grant funding really, really useful for specific development projects. And I think, sometimes grant funding fills some really important gaps. So for instance, when you're developing your first MVP, it's much easier to get grant funding to do that than to get equity funding. But now we're using grant funding as a way of building out some additional features that maybe are outside of a VC funding remit. So I think grant funding really, really important. Innovate UK, an obvious choice, but lots of other sources as well. And in the health tech space, it's worth looking at NIHR, although it's very difficult to actually secure, but it's definitely worth looking at. And there are various other sources too. And on smaller funding circuit, things like Department of International Trade's internationalization funds are good too.
But I guess the grant system is also quite structured, and we see quite a few decks that maybe is all about the science or maybe all about a certain piece, and there are a number of elements missing, whereas the grant system makes you answer. You might want to debate because you've got 5 people on the other side, and you might want to debate that their assessment of your tech. But that's the same for the VC environment. So I actually see the grant, it's quite a good educational piece for when you go and talk to investors, because there are a number of things, and it's a bit like Andy with the incubator model there and the value proposition. Doing as much as that as you can actually educates you in terms of as you grow as a business.
Yeah, absolutely. The grant landscape is challenging in itself, and actually you might not be successful in that competition, but actually putting the application together is a really good learning phase. And as Andy alluded to earlier, it's that's all about getting your value proposition out there and outlined in a way that's easy to understand. So the assessors, they only get, I don't know if you all know this, but they only get 2 hours to read a grant application. So they have to be able to understand very quickly what it is that you're trying to do with that investment. And Jess, from a VC perspective, does that a real added plus bonus?
Yeah, I think particularly with the life sciences side, but we do see it on the tech EIS side as well. But if you're trying to build something and you're not really sure, it's still very young. It's not got any pilots. It's maybe it just looks very, very young and not really very well tested. It's a great proving ground, as Rupert said. So I don't really think I can add much more to that. But I mean, just kind of in a very sweeping statement, particularly in kind of deep tech or life sciences, as a founder, if you've applied for grant funding and you've been successful, there's a lot to be derived from that in terms of you know, the preparedness, their ability to get their idea across. But just from a pure kind of financial perspective, it's de-risking a lot of the investment. So, you know, there are programs that are sole grant, so it's just cash for the business. There's also the Innovate UK £80 million partner program, where they're looking at co-investing alongside people as well. So trying to bring down that corporate venture. So, you know, grant funding does have a really important role in kind of unlocking private cash as well, as enabling those grassroots ideas to get funded. So yeah, really important part of the ecosystem.
Well, and as everybody has been doing little pitches for themselves earlier on today, navigating all this area is really difficult. So if you're ever looking for support on this, Innovate UK Edge provide fully funded support for SMEs to help them on this journey to find the best grants and the best opportunities for funding and support through the business model canvas, so that to get you ready and grounded for your next stage on your journey. So Vicky, from a legal perspective, have you got anything that you need, if you feel that you should put forward from the due diligence stage? So if the company gets to that stage where a VC is interested in talking to them, what can they have done to prepare and make them sure that they don't face any further challenges going forward there?
Yeah, and I think just to kind of take it from the outset as well about, you know, looking at alternative funding. When you've been looking at any kind of funding, you know, like you could say with the grant applications, the Innovate applications, you will have had to have already done some groundwork in terms of what you're presenting, and it's getting that presentation correct and getting that investment readiness started as soon as you can. I think one thing that founders often express to us when we're going through the process is, how the hell do I find the time to do this? Because I've got questions from the grant providers, I've got questions from the funders who are interested, I've got questions from you who are my legal advisors, but I've got my day job that takes up 24 hours anyway. So where does the time come from? And that's a big learning curve for founders, is actually you do need to take the time to do this, because it might not seem valuable and it might seem draining for a period, but it's going to be the best time that you've got, because once you've got that pack ready, once you've got the starting point, it will be something to build on. You will have that preparedness. And I think one other thing that is also helpful is finding the right partners, finding the people that can help take the load off you, help with the load. And if that means looking at resource, you know, Dave spoke about management teams. It's the people around you who can help. If you've not got the people around you, look for them. Everyone knows there's resourcing issues at the moment, but making sure that you've got someone who's got a handle on how to present your finance pack in the best way possible. Have you got someone who can help you get your commercial contracts in hand? And yes, we as lawyers are more than happy to take the load as much as we can, but having people in your management team will be as important as anything else as well.
A real challenge for SMEs on the start of their journey, isn't it? Because often there's 2 or 3 of them, and who's running the business at the same time is getting themselves ready to go out and look for investments. I've got a client at the moment who I'm talking to, and she's like, well, I don't know whether this is the right thing anymore. It's taking so much of my time, and the VCs want me to show that I've got traction, and I can't get traction if I'm not working on this full time. And playing that balancing game is a real game for them. I'm always in total admiration for their get up and go to carry on going. So we're in Greater Manchester. What are the biggest challenges for facing health tech businesses seeking funding here, do you think, in the Greater Manchester, and what can be done to overcome those challenges? So I don't know who wants to lead on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind sort of chipping in. I think it's probably stuff that hasn't already been covered, but you know, just generally sector specific funds in the region, and obviously there's more investors coming here as the years go by, which is really positive. I would say as well, just anyone who's in health tech will be looking at the NHS as a market, and we're all just watching the NHS sort of slowly set on fire. And we all understand the need for innovation, but it's how can you overcome just the inertia of getting through into that market. And I'll defer to Dom to talk about what he did in response to that. But yeah, it's just how can you engage with the right trusts who may be leading in a particular area to prove out your pilot, And even when you've done that, how can you actually scale it into the rest of the NHS? Because no trust is the same as another. So it's not really an answer, but it's more just like being prepared for how disconnected it is, and actually be willing to explore other markets that can respond quicker first, I guess.
But we don't really want too many people going over to America. I think that's the key thing, and that's one thing we did discuss, is that, yeah, and it's not sad reflection, but we would prefer, you and I were talking earlier, to kind of have our own ecosystem growing and shouting about what we can do in the region. And it's not just Manchester, you know, we've got Liverpool, we've got Desbury, we've got Leeds. Paul's mentioned about projects going over there, on and over there. And yes, it may have been an option, the right option for you at the time, but it's daunting enough a process going out and fundraising. Can you imagine? And I can't imagine going out and fundraising in the US for businesses at the moment.
But I think the problem is it's not a reflection on our local region, it's a reflection on certainly the appetite of VCs in the UK for risk.
Yeah.
And what we found talking to lots and lots and lots and lots of VCs and angels in the UK is, you know, constantly you need to demonstrate $1 million ARR before we can invest in you. Whereas in the States, you flip that on its head, and it's, we will invest in you so that you can get to $1 million ARR, because there is that appetite for risk. And actually, if we need to change anything in the UK, we need to change appetite for risk. It's not about the ecosystem. It's not even about the difficulty of selling to the NHS, which is, as Jess says, you know, is on fire. It is about that appetite for risk.
I guess risk is different in different people's minds, right? And mainly risk is centered on not understanding what it is, what is the opportunity, the proposition. So I would think, you know, we don't. I mean, it's not just a Manchester or UK problem, fundraising. We've got clients across the globe, and they're all saying it's really hard, and that's because it's not one sector; it's 1,000 mini verticals. So, if you're going to do any research up front, is find investors who understand your technology and go to them first, rather than find the regional investors, which is sort of the easier ones, and maybe you can meet a coffee. But actually, you know, they won't have any knowledge around your technology. And whilst all investors say we love to invest in healthcare, actually, when you present it, often it's not that type of healthcare, but if you can get to $1 million ARR, then maybe we'll think about it. So it's finding knowledge within those investors. Yeah, it's not just a regional thing, actually, it's a global thing. Find knowledge of your sector. Make sure you talk to them really, really early. So 6 to 12 to 18 months before you even want money, you know, that you're on their radar, and then you can build that relationship.
It's about risk, and it's about finding the partner that works for you as well, isn't it? I know that I've spoken to businesses that have gone down both journeys, and the US are very much more willing to take a risk, so they're more likely to say yes. But when you actually get the funding, then they are expecting delivery much quicker. Whereas UK funders are a lot more likely to want to hold your hand and take you on that journey as well. So they've taken that assessment and they understand the risk, but they're there to help you more. Whereas the US ones are going to be saying, why have you not delivered the number? And that's the feedback that I've had on that. So I know we're short on time. If we've got time to ask if there's any questions at all in the audience. With one question, anybody? Anybody wants to get there? Everybody's hungry, aren't they? I know I am.
Can I make one more point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, we talk about VCs, but VCs are actually people, and it's so and then there's this vulture culture, sorry, but rather than VC, but actually no, it's not a vulture culture. Is you've got to understand who it is you're pitching to, and you've got to understand what their remit is. And by the way, you know, it's all about, you know, they're going to take the risk and taking your name to the IC. Because effectively the IC will look at you and go, okay, Jess, you're putting your name against this. You got to help the VCs do their job. You know, it's you know, you got to understand it's the human nature to it as well.
Yeah, people buy from people. It's an old saying, but it's true. People buy from people. And as Dave said to us earlier, he doesn't really understand all the technology, and Jess has said the same. They want to feel confident that you understand your technology and that you can sell yourself to the people who want to buy your technology. Okay, all right.